Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Second Helpings recap episode, post show, whatever we're calling it these days. You heard Too Complicated for History. If you haven't, go check it out right now and then come back because spoilies, we're going to be talking about it. We chatted with Charlene Boyer Lewis, who wrote a book called The Traitor's Wife, the woman behind Benedict Arnold and the plan to betray America. We're talking about Peggy Shipp and Arnold today, guys. Now,
treason.
That's right. And some of us know the Benedict Arnold story. If you don't, again, you didn't listen to the episode, so go back and do it. I came in here thinking, first of all,
available at 2c4hpod.com.
Thank you for that.
YouTube.com/2c4hpod.
Now, I came in here obviously hungry for Eggs Benedict and walked away with a full stomach of history. How do you like that? Just thought of it. But what was so interesting is in that episode, we talked about spy stuff, like invisible writing, and like I started thinking of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You remember that movie with who was in that? Brad Pitt and
Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
But aren't they kind of against each other in that movie?
Like when they find out, about each other, but it's interesting that it's like a couple that are sort of doing this together, which that's the part that really made me think of it. These guys are in it together. I mean, history remembers the name Benedict Arnold more than Peggy Shipp and Arnold, but she was right along for the ride.
Oh yeah.
Until he wasn't, and then she
until he abandoned her with her baby, but
Yeah,
details.
Whatever. I mean, he's a traitor, right? So why not trade his own
What
family?
do you expect?
What you can't expect, you can take the traitor out of the country, but you can't take the traitor out of the traitor. I don't know.
You take the man out of the traitor, but you can't take the traitor
out of the man. Boom. Right there.
Boom.
Now,
all right.
Some of these tactics they were using were fascinating. Was it like lemon juice, or like how do you do invisible ink? As our resident historian, Lynn, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah. So with the invisible ink, I think that the lemon juice is the one that you would use lemon juice as ink, and you'd write out your message, and then the recipient would put it over the fire, and it would sort of burn, and then you would be able to read it. They'd start to appear. But there's also another way where you would have two chemicals. And so the person writing it would have one chemical that they would use for the ink, and then they would send it to and the recipient would use the other chemical. So they would put the other chemical on the page, and that would sort of develop it. And then the letters would start to appear. And so that way, if anyone, intercepts the letter, it's just a blank piece of paper. Because you needed to have that chemistry, that material in order to develop it.
So I have a question about that, because and you made it, this is like, now it's like, all right, resident scientist and espionage specialist Lynn Price Robin. Gosh.
Wow, great question, Lynn. And your thoughts?
I wanted to talk, and then I was like,
he's only human.
So my question is, how many different types of chemistry, like how many different combinations are there, where it's like, if someone intercepts a blank piece of paper, they have to know something is up, right? Like they're like, who just sends a blank card? And it's like, okay, well, it's not the lemon juice.
You're right.
Yeah. What do we try to do? And well, I think that, there may have been more than two combinations. That's very possible.
Okay.
But also,
I guess they're a bit more sophisticated than we're giving credit.
Yeah. And do you really have time every time, you see a piece of paper, are you going to immediately try to put a chemical on it to see if it was like, could be, Charlene talks about how Peggy would write letters, sort of coded letters to her friend about this big Meshianza ball. And there were, coded words in it. So perhaps for the invisible ink, you would write that in between the lines, or you would have it on the last piece of paper. So I don't think they were just sending blank pieces of paper. It was more hidden around.
There was a note on top.
That makes more sense. That makes more sense.
There was a big note on top that said, "No hidden messages." So this way, if anyone opened it, but really it meant that there was. brilliant.
Well, and another
Right,
thing they would do
right.
is they would you would have to have the exact same copy of a book. So let's say I had the 1920 edition of this book and you had the exact same one, Jordan. I could write you a letter by saying first page number, line number, letter number, and then like that. That would take a long time to decode, but that's another way. Unless you know what book it is and you have the exact same edition, you're not going to be able to figure out what the message is.
For sure. And just
Did they not have PDFs available?
they had
They were
archaic
about 2
versions.
years before
Yeah.
PDFs, unfortunately.
Well, and
but they
just,
weren't searchable because they were images,
no
right?
Command
Jordan?
F function.
What?
yeah, exactly. Oh, Lynn!
Ow!
Oh my gosh!
Listen, okay. What I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted is that is how we write the script for this show, which is why it takes us so long to spit one of these out.
Yeah, it's all coding.
Okay. Insult. The message says insult Jordan. Excellent. Thank you, Pat. That took me 2 weeks.
Good deductive reasoning there, Sherlock Holmes.
Exactly. So, all right. Now I have a whole list of stuff that I want to get to, and we haven't gotten to any of it. Not true. I mean, honestly, not true. But how does someone violently woo someone? And also, maybe they were a match made in heaven if Benedict Arnold violently wooed her and it worked.
And then commits treason against her as well.
Yeah, like surprised or like what does violent wooing mean for the 18th century?
Yeah, because that was a really funny part where I was like, what is dating? Like there wasn't dating.
Right.
There was courting, which is a very different thing.
Yes, you weren't allowed to be alone together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
on.
lots of surprises after marriage.
So yeah, I mean, I'm also curious about the violently wooed.
Yeah, do you know anything about this, Lynn?
Forcibly loved.
I mean, it sounds like he was maybe, I don't want to say a stalker because it was a short-term wooing, but I'm guessing he probably wrote to her, visited, talked to her father, talked to her friends, just sort of, what you would think of today. It's someone
aggressive.
Who you would say is stalking you,
aggressively.
Yeah,
I think we should. I definitely think we should move it back to aggressively versus
violently. Yeah. It's like he writes "love me" on his.
Gets a little dicey.
A little dicey
language.
Yeah. So a month into their marriage, they sent the first letter to the British.
And I think so. They get married. They meet in, I think, was it 79? They meet the next year. They get married. The next year is when the treason happens.
It was 78. They met 79.
Thank you. And 80
then
was
September
the
of 80 is when the treason happens. Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, it's all really quickly. I mean, they meet during the war, and her family, Peggy's family, is already. They're not loyalists, but they, they're not ardent patriots either. But I think the thing that baffled my mind is as Charlene was talking about the story, all of a sudden she reminds us, and she's 19. And I think that's the part that's still kind of like, wait, what? I need to rethink everything we've just discussed.
Yeah.
Because she was, and had a baby. So, that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, but I mean, how old was Arnold at this time? Sorry.
Do we know how
Arnold was way older,
That's a good question.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Guy sounds pretty creepy. But also 19 is maybe different in that century than it is now, I suppose.
For sure. But even still, like just even with a different context of society, like that is still so young.
Yeah.
To be like committing treason and just this crazy.
You don't even know
adventure.
who you are yet. I wonder like how much of an influence he had on her to make those decisions, which would explain why when he kind of disappeared at the end, was like, you know what? I don't want any. I'm not touching this. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, I just Googled, and he was in his late 30s.
Creepy.
All right, so not as far as I thought, but also far enough.
Yeah. Still creeper status. Now they were gonna get paid £10,000. Was another thing that stood out to me. I was gonna do the calculation. You know what? I think our audience wants to see. Let's do the calculation. £10,000 in 1779
Oh, Jordan.
in today. In today.
In today.
Yep. So that would be 22,257 pounds. Now let's say 22,257.72 pounds in USD. $27,069.51. That's how much they were getting paid.
And that's how much it would cost for me to commit. Definitely not treason.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's definitely not enough.
No, absolutely not.
I think relative wealth though was very different back then, at least in
Well, I just
Yeah.
used
some
Google
ways.
to inflate that for me. That is relative.
No, not. I'm referring to relative wealth among the wealthy, not among them versus us today.
Yeah.
So like the rate, like $22,000 then is probably worth. I mean, George Washington was one of the wealthiest men in the country, land rich, right?
Mhm.
And I think we figured out he was worth what $700,000,
Right.
and it's like he owned like half the land in the colonies.
Not quite that much,
You know what
but
I-
it
you know
feels
what I
like
mean?
Right,
yeah.
right. That's a good point. Yeah.
No, in exaggeration. Don't quote me on that, or do. Let's start a controversy. George Washington owned all the land.
That's what we remember him for.
Yeah.
So, okay. We're getting totally off subject. What was the subject again? What were we talking about?
You were just surprised at how much they got paid for treason,
Right.
and then it turned out in today's schmeckles, it's actually not that much money.
Yeah. So that says a lot about, I mean, I know she said that, he was debating about this on the course of, over the course of 2 years, but like that could not have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, he
it just-
wanted military recognition. I
Yeah.
mean, he wanted attention. He wanted to be today's movie star, and he was on reality TV. And he's like, I'm switching over. I'm going to be a big movie star. And he tried, and the movie audiences said, we don't really like you because
It's like in the show Survivor, you know?
Yeah.
He
You're voted off
tried
the
to
island.
play everyone against each other, but he was the one that got voted off.
Listen, not to knock reality TV, because you never know if we're going to put out a reality TV show. You're keeping up with the Washingtons or, what
Yeah.
have you.
Yeah.
But
Oh my God.
But that was actually, in all seriousness, that was one of the most relatable things in that entire episode is someone saying, I'm mad because people that do less than me are getting promotions and I've been here and I work my butt off. I'm like, yes, buddy. Yes. I mean, not that I would commit treason.
But I mean, you might quit and go to the competition.
Sure, that's exactly what that is, I suppose. I
Right.
mean, there's a big leap, but I guess maybe the boundaries weren't as solidified at that point, certainly as they are today, with who's an enemy and who's a friend. I don't know. Am I just making that up?
No, they were pretty solidified. I mean, Arnold should have been hanged for Andre was hanged.
Right.
So Arnold should have been hanged as well, and they didn't hang Peggy, but she should have had some punishment, but they ran off to England. So
Yeah, I mean that whole thing kind of like doesn't crack me up, but man, it feels like such a movie scene.
It really
but it's
does.
like when he leaves and she has a mental breakdown, but there's like a gentlemanly code that like realistically they didn't break, but she's worried about murder and killing her baby.
yeah,
and-
Washington, you're the man who's gonna kill
yeah.
my baby.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I'll only speak to Washington. He shows up and she's like, no, it's not you. That's such a wild.
It is.
Yeah, you want to talk
Ride.
about history being boring. It is certainly not. This is straight out of
Right.
a movie. I'm like,
It is.
this really happened? It's crazy.
It is. And
Yeah, it's like all the different panels in Ocean's 11. Like, and then it's like he gets caught. You're gonna kill my baby. And then it's
And it's Benedict Arnold in another square
Yeah.
running off and saying, row
Yep.
faster, damn it, they're coming for me. They're like, but sir, what is happening? Like it's making me hungry, all this talk of lemon and Benedict. It's
you're
making
still
me very
thinking about
hungry.
the lemon juice.
Yeah, I am.
Now I'm thirsty too. Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks. I want some treasonous lemonade. Ooh, restaurant idea. Eggs Benedict Arnold, treasonous lemonade.
That would be a good band name. Treasonous
Lemonade. All right, you heard it here, folks.
Lemonade. That's our new metal band name.
Listen,
Jordan's on bongos.
I would love to play bongos on treasonous lemonade. Guys,
4 treasonous.
4 on
Together.
and well, that could be the name of our self-titled album. Saved it.
Or on off.
In New York, they say online instead of in line. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, now you do.
As in get in line, not I'm on.
No, like you're standing in line. They say you're standing online. Like, okay.
Yeah, but what if there's not a line on the ground?
That's
what if
weird.
they're floating in mid? All right, listen. Here's the thing. Obviously, a lot happened in this episode.
This is what people come here for.
This is the type of dumb. Can I curse? Bleep it out. Bleep this out.
Okay.
That's a long one. I'm sorry.
I can't believe you used that word.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Never again, Jordan.
Don't offer free sponsors.
I'm not gonna. Well, here's a
free ads.
Here's a baby back ribs. Can we leave the baby back ribs in, or do we have to bleep that?
So,
all right, moving on. We're gonna move on. All right. Well, the point I was making is there's obviously a lot of stuff that happens in this episode. It literally has my attention the entire time because there's so many different relatable things that obviously feel modern, but also make this like a very clear and cohesive story. It's super fascinating. And it's also interesting, as we said in the episode, about the women behind the man, like the woman behind the man. And I meant to say like the women behind the men in history. That's a thing we point out in our show as well. And, you know, it's fascinating. Check out Charlene Boyer Lewis's book, The Traitor's Wife, the woman behind Benedict Arnold and the plan to betray America. It's absolutely as fascinating as that episode. Check out Too Complicated for History. If you ignored me earlier and didn't listen to the episode, now you definitely should. Listen to every single episode twice. Like and subscribe. Check out our YouTube channel. Check out our... Do we have that yet? If not, bleep this out.
Yet.
All right, bleep that out. What else are we plugging?
Historical birthdays today.
Check me out on historical birthdays today. If you were born today, you share a birthday with, you're never going to get tired of hearing that.
No, especially not the music that I edited to.
Exactly. That is definitely.
Also intohistory.com/2c4h. That's our premium listening. So ad-free listening. You can chat with us on Discord and check out some pretty cool stuff.
And coming
our
soon.
YouTube channel.
How'd you like to be here for this recording?
That is coming soon. We are, per my last episode, we're still figuring this out. We have a few other things that we're figuring out how to optimize.
I mean, you're seeing 80% of the company right here, so like, give us a second, people. Yeah, would you? But I would love to have you here. There's so much that gets edited out, including this potentially. We love to create more work for Pat, including naming sponsors like.
I'm gonna.
We might want to bleep that out. All right,
definitely gonna
I'm
have to cut
stack
that
in the beep with a beep.
Yeah, I'm gonna beep with a beep.
I'm gonna
in the neck.
beep. It's like you beep the wrong thing. All right, guys, check it out.